It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Welcome back to the program. We've got Republican gubernatorial candidate Jan Morgan on the line. Jan, good morning.
Good morning to you and all the folks I see that are live streaming, listening to the live stream. It's great to see this many people up and engaged this morning.
Absolutely. Yeah. And folks, if you want to get in on the action, it's facebook.com/Conduit News. That's facebook.com/Conduit News. And yeah, Jan, you're a big part of, every time you're on the show, our online audience just does go through the roof. So first of all, talk a little bit about the campaign. How is it going so far?
Wonderful. The momentum is on our side, Paul. Everywhere we're going, we're drawing large crowds. Standing ovations for the speeches, which is a good thing. That means people not only hear the message, but they like it. It is the message. It's their message, after all. You know, we went, 6 months on the campaign tour during exploratory stage to listen to the issues that the people around this state said were most important to them, the issues that they wanted addressed that were not being addressed. And then we use those to outline our platform. So, of course, the people are going to be receptive to our message because it's something that's long overdue. And I'm hoping that all these people that are showing up at our event and are supporting us are going to actually show up at the polls on May 22nd because, as you know, it's not about who has the largest social media following or who has the largest crowds at events. It's who gets their people to the polls on May 22nd.
Yeah, no doubt about that. It certainly is. Jan, we've talked before. There's been, in my opinion, a concerted effort to keep you from speaking at many events. And I want to know, I mean,
that's still going on.
Is it really? That's what I wanted to ask you. How is it still going on?
Well, you know, here's what happened, Paul. Since the first time I appeared on your show last year when we talked about being uninvited by Republican committee chairs around the state who had invited me to speak and then uninvited me to speak after being pressured by Doug Smith from the governor's office, as well as from some of them told us they got phone calls from the leadership of the establishment in the Republican Party in Little Rock. So after being canceled a number of times, those state Republican Party chairs came together in a statewide meeting in December. And I don't know if a lot of people know this around the state because when I was on Talk Business Politics, Roby Rock didn't know this, and this is a guy that's in touch with things. And area news media are telling me they did not know about this. But this is historical in magnitude. And it just shows what the people can accomplish when they step up to the plate and engage when something wrong is happening. Republican Party chairs across this state came together at that statewide meeting and issued a stand down, an official written policy stand down to the governor's office as well as the leadership of the Republican Party, Doyle Webb. And that stand down was along these lines. We are independent committees. We will invite who we want to invite to speak, and you are not to tell us who we can and can't have speaking at our committee meetings. I mean, that was huge because a number of committee chairs did back down and are still doing so. They're not inviting us to speak, and we're getting a cold shoulder when we talk about coming. Of course, officially, they can't not let me speak since I'm an official candidate, but they can limit me to a couple of minutes. You know, we have a lot of candidates here. You can only speak a few minutes, so keep it brief. And that's why, of course, since I was last on, I also called for the resignation of Doyle Webb from his leadership position because of bias being shown, which is against Republican Party rules. And of course, his response on the TV news was, Jan Morgan needs to just come to Little Rock and hang around here for a while and see how things work. Well, Paul, how things work is the reason I'm in this race. Things aren't working. They're not working for the people. They're working for the upper 10% of the economic elites who have been controlling public policy for decades, but they're not working for the people, and that's why I'm in this race.
Yeah, and I, it's just been fascinating to watch. In many cases, the governor pivoting. Since you've entered the race, the governor is really, in many cases, he's adopting some of your positions that you've campaigned on. That's a part of your speeches. And if anything, Jan, you've at least had to, your presence has made him have to admit that he believes that the base of this state is actually conservative. Now, I would argue he's got a record of progressive liberalism, but he is certainly pivoting really far to the right, trying to, win this primary.
Of course, and that's, it's so transparent that it's a pivot from the way he's been governing, that it's become comical. I mean, the news media, statewide news media, have you seen the cartoons that they're making fun of the fact that he's suddenly talking to conservative talk? But, here's what scares me, Paul. the fact that he is talking conservative right now in order to try to win this race, because he can't argue my points. My points are dead on, in line with the Republican Party platform and in line with conservative values of this state. But here's the scary part. He's talking conservative right now, but let's look at how he's governed. If he has governed with the kind of establishment progressive agenda and far left agenda that he had, knowing he had to face re-election, can you imagine how bad it's going to get if he wins re-election and he knows he doesn't have to run again?
Mm-hmm.
If he has grown government by over $600 million in government spending, if he has increased taxes through this shell game where he's tried to convince people he didn't increase taxes, if he has increased regulations, regulatory burdens instead of decreasing regulatory burdens, if he's done those kinds of things while in government, while leading the state, knowing he has to run for re-election, can you imagine what this state's going to be subjected to knowing he doesn't have to run in 4 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of witnessed a consolidation of power. We've witnessed attempts at consolidating power when it comes to professional associations, state boards like the plant board and things like that. I would imagine in a second term, a lot of those loose ends he's going to, really try to tie up. I would agree with that, Jan. We're talking with Jan Morgan, Republican gubernatorial candidate. So, Jan, let's talk about the debate. What
debate? Have you heard about one? Because so far the governor, I've been teasing people lately. I thought he was a Razorback, but apparently he's a Dodger because he's dodging at every turn. Every time every media outlet that I talk to, I say, debate, debate, debate. We want to debate the governor. The people of this state deserve that. They deserve a right to see us on the same stage, hashing out the issues in a Lincoln Douglas format where there's no room for any biased media to ask, questions that have been given to one of the candidates in advance. Let's let Jan and Asa one-on-one on stage, in front of the cameras, in front of all the media, in front of the people of this state, hashing through the issues. But let him call me a liar to my face. He won't. I thought this was interesting, Paul. Long ago, when I was in Explorer Story stage, the Saline County Courier editorial writer made this statement, and what he said is so true today. He said, Asa Hutchinson will never engage with Jan Morgan because she will take him places he doesn't want to go. And, Paul, that is so true because I'll take him straight to his record, which is indefensible as a Republican.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And it looks like he's sticking to that strategy. I just find it interesting that the governor's spokesperson comes out, on radio last week, and he says now they're saying that the reason they won't debate is because you're lying about his record. And that's very odd because why wouldn't he want to defend that? Why wouldn't he want to come on and challenge you and win the argument if he is in fact correct? It actually suggests that he's not correct.
Oh, and by the way, since you brought that up, the governor's spokesman, that is the governor's official spokesman who is on the taxpayer dime. Not the governor's campaign spokesman, but the governor's spokesman. There's a difference between your official government duty as being the spokesman for the governor's office, taking care of government issues. But it's a different deal when you're on a radio station in campaign mode, the governor's running for office, and you're representing his campaign. See, I have a problem with that, but hey.
Well, it does at least pose a question. Yeah, it definitely poses a question.
Yes, it does. It does. But every week it's a new excuse. I'm looking forward to seeing what this week's excuse is going to be, because his first excuse was to the media when they approached him and said, Governor, you're going to debate Jan Morgan. He said, well, I believe we both have a speaking engagement at the same venue, and we'll see how that goes. Wow. And then another media person said, well, Governor, with all due respect, that's not the same as a debate. And he said, well, we'll just see how that goes. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, last week the excuse was, well, Jan Morgan won't endorse Asa. Jan Morgan won't endorse Asa. That's why we won't debate her. Well, of course I'm not going to endorse I'm not going to endorse him. If he was remotely conservative, I would be in this race. Mm-hmm. Oh, and the establishment end of the party here said that's just appalling. You just can't. Of course, Donald Trump did the same thing when he was running for it in the primary, but whatever.
Well, so let me ask you this. So let's say that we do get a debate. I don't think we're going to, but let's say that we do, but they say, but it won't be Lincoln Douglas. We're going to have the normal media types there asking questions, the gatekeepers, if you will. Is it you think would it be worth it to go ahead and attempt that just to bring up his record in front of folks, or what are your thoughts on that?
I don't like that, Paul, and here's why. It opens up the possibility for bias.
Of
it
course.
Opens up the possibility for
it would be biased. There's no question.
Real issues. Yeah, right. And it leaves open the problem with not being able to get to the issues that I know are the most important to the people.
Yeah.
You know, the issues people are talking about: sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, illegal immigration. You know, the governor's stance on the foreign law, the Arkansas works. I mean, these are the issues that the people, and the taxes. Before he was running, before he had a primary opponent, he was talking about this $217 million gas tax hike that he's going to put before the people next year to take care of funding roads. Well, we already have a tire tax, and we already have another tax that we passed in 2012-13 that's supposed to be taking care of our roads and highways. But these are things that he's shifting on because he's in campaign mode. And then there's all this that came out with this tax reform commission. I know you've taken a look at that. At some of the things they're talking about. And you all said from the beginning, this tax reform commission is not really about reforming our ridiculous tax code. It is a commission that's coming together to find more ways to squeeze blood out of the turnip. Let's find more ways to get more money out of the people. And they're looking at repealing exemptions on things that, you know, the people are going to be outraged about, such as church programs that help the homeless, farming equipment. You know, the list is ridiculous.
Well, and the interesting thing is, I mean, I don't have much confidence that okay, let's say if you did repeal some of the exemptions, you know, can we agree on the definitions of things? If you repeal these exemptions, but then don't cut taxes elsewhere the same amount, is that a tax increase or is it a tax cut? I mean, they would say, well, no, we've cut taxes. Well, if it's more money going to the government, then you haven't cut taxes. And I would just like to come together and agree on the definition of words and phrases. But they like to use very popular words, and when they say tax cut, it may not mean what the average person thinks of when they hear that phrase.
Right. Well, the governor is really good at carefully crafted language and manipulation of numbers, and therein lies the problem, which is why J.R. Davis wants to call me a liar, and he did call me a liar, which, you know, he says I'm a liar about sanctuary cities, about the governor's position on sanctuary college campuses, the governor's position about foreign law, the governor's position about raising taxes, the governor's position about increasing spending, and pressuring Republicans to vote for expanded Medicaid and the $217 million gas tax hike. He just says I'm a liar about all these things. So,
it's all
the
fact.
People deserve a chance.
Yeah.
The people deserve a chance for the two of us to be on the same stage. A Lincoln-Douglas format keeps the media and any kind of bias out of it. It's just a moderator who sits there with a stopwatch, and Asa gets to go at me, and I get to go at him, and we can hash out the issues that we want to talk about, and people get a chance to see us side by side and decide who's telling the truth and who they want to be their next governor.
As you travel the state, we're talking with Jan Morgan, Republican gubernatorial candidate. As you travel the state and you campaign, I would imagine, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I would imagine that you do run into some limited government conservatives who are quite discouraged right now at the government that they have. And I just would love to hear from you. You know, is it a challenge to encourage them to, to try to, bring them along and say, hey, we can still win this thing, and we can still see a government that, more accurately reflects the will of the people? How do you handle those situations?
By telling them that we should never give up. We can't give up until there's nothing left to fight for. And I understand their discouragement, Paul. It is discouraging, but the machine can be beat if you keep plugging away. We are making progress. The fact that the governor is having to talk conservative shows that our message is getting out there. And this is really our last chance, Paul. Because if we don't fix this now, that's why I'm in this race. We can't wait 4 more years for another conservative to step up to the bench and run. That's why I jumped in the race when I did, because the people know we have a small window of opportunity here to prove to the people that living and working in Arkansas is better with conservatives in control. And whether you're a conservative or an establishment Republican, the Republican Party is going to get the blame or the credit for what happens in this state when we're in control. And right now, the direction that we've been taking this state under 4 years of leadership, the same problems that our Republicans are having are the same things that we complained about when Democrats were in control.
Yes.
Corruption, increased taxes, big government. So we have to take the helm. The conservative end of the state has to take the helm now. And what I'm telling people is we're not going to be able to compete with Asa money-wise because he's got the multi-millionaires on his side. In fact, he bragged about that. He posted his list of these are my people who are on my advisory committee, and they're all the multi-millionaires of the state. If I were him, I wouldn't have been bragging about that because to me, that's not something to brag about. It shows you who's controlling public policy when Asa is the leader.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the people who are going to be controlling public policy when I'm the leader are the good folks of this state, the fine folks of the state. We need boots on the ground. And if everybody who is supporting Jan Morgan will tell 10 other people a week who I am, why I'm in this race, we will win. But it's going to take boots on the ground and getting to the polls May 22nd.
I want to point out to the audience what you just said, because I've said that many times, and that is the fact that if big government policies are bad for the state, and you have Republicans who are now in control and are implementing big government policies that are bringing us closer to the end conclusion of liberalism, which is a bankruptcy or over leveraging the people and higher taxes and more regulations on businesses and things like that, because you have to have more and more money from the people to pay for this ever expanding government. It will be conservatism that gets the blame, because the media they assume that if you're a Republican that they can call you a conservative, when conservative ideas won't actually have ever been tried at all, but they will blame the catastrophe on conservative republicanism. And I couldn't agree with that point. It's a very esoteric point, and it's exactly right, because we've seen that play out across the country before. I really appreciate it. So, Jan, tell us, we're almost out of time. Tell us the website where people can go. They can support you if they choose to do so.
Sure, but one last thing I wanted to point out, Paul, that is so encouraging to me. You want to talk about grassroots efforts. When, in a statewide governor's race ever in the history of the state, have you seen people, not campaigns, but individual citizens, get their own billboards for Jan Morgan for governor? Put up billboards in their towns. We're seeing this happen all across the state. The citizens, out of their own pockets, getting together, raising money, putting up billboards, making their own T-shirts, making their own yard signs. Yeah. Because our campaign is financially, we just don't have the money that ASA does. But if you'll go to janmorganforgovernor.com, there's a place there that you can donate. And we do need your financial help. This last stretch, the ASA is going to be buying a lot of TV time. We're not going to be able to do that. So we're going to need as much money as we can to try to get our message to the people, because our message is the right one. And if people hear me and see me, which is why he doesn't want me to speak anywhere, we win.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's why he doesn't want to debate you as well. So that was janmorganforgovernor.com, and it's up right now on the Facebook page as well. In the comment section, people are posting that, flooding it. Jan Morgan, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much, and let's do this again soon.
Yes, sir, we'll do.
Okay. Folks, we got to take a break. It's Conduit News Radio. Back in just a moment.